You're locked in, and then lock. Unlock, and then lock in. There we go. We're locked in.
On February 23, 2026, Salt Lake City police responded to a call, a possible overdose. When they arrived, they found 23-year-old Robert Cosby Jr. gone. Just like that, a young life ended. A son, a husband. Someone's whole world. But this isn't just a story about how someone died. This is a story about how he lived, about a mother's unwavering love, about addiction's grip on families across America, and about a young man who, despite everything, was deeply, deeply loved. This is Robert's story. If you only know Robert Cosby Jr. from headlines, you don't really know him at all. Sure, you might know the drama, the legal troubles, the headlines that read like a cautionary tale. But before all of that, before the tabloids and the mugshots and the court dates, there was just a kid, Mary Cosby's beautiful boy. Born into a world of complexity, and let's be real, Mary's life has never been simple. Robert Jr. grew up in the shadow of Faith Temple Pentecostal Church. His mother, a controversial figure in her own right, was a preacher. His father, Robert Sr., a steady presence in a family that television would later make famous. Look at those early photos Mary shared over the years. There's little Robert, smiling, carefree, just a kid who loved his mum. In April 2024, Mary posted a tribute to her son, called him her beautiful son. Simple words, but they meant everything. Because here's what you need to understand about Mary Cosby. And I know she's polarizing. I know she's controversial. I know she's done and said things that make people raise their eyebrows. But when it came to her son, that woman loved him with everything she had. Everything. And when Real Housewives of Salt Lake City started filming, that love story played out on national television. But so did something else. Robert's struggle. Season 6 of RHOSLC hit different. Because while we're used to seeing drama on these shows, the arguments, the expensive trips, the fashion, the feuds, what we saw with Robert Jr. was something else entirely. Raw, painful, real. The kind of real that makes you forget you're watching reality TV. During the season, Robert Jr. opened up about his addiction. Not in some carefully crafted PR-approved statement, but in real time, with real tears, real shame, real fear. He admitted he was struggling to stay sober. Think about that for a second. This young man, in his early 20s, sitting in front of cameras that would broadcast his darkest moments to millions of people, admitting he couldn't beat this thing that had its claws in him. That takes courage. Or maybe it takes desperation. Maybe both. Mary watched her son struggle on camera. And here's where it gets complicated. Because Mary is a woman of faith. Deep, unshakable faith. She's a preacher. She believes in God's power to heal, to restore, to make things right. But she's also a mother. And sometimes, faith and motherhood collide in the messiest ways. At the 2026 reunion, filmed just weeks before Robert's death, though no one knew it then, Mary broke down. Tears streaming down her face as she talked about her son's addiction journey. Can you imagine sitting there, in full makeup, under bright lights, with Andy Cohen asking you questions about your child's addiction, about his arrests, about his struggles, and having to answer, having to be vulnerable, having to admit that even with all your faith, all your prayers, all your love, sometimes it's not enough to save them. But Mary tried. God, did she try. Then there was the marriage. In a 2024 episode that had viewers' jaws on the floor, Mary confronted Robert Jr. about a rumor she'd heard. Was he married? The look on his face said it all before he even opened his mouth. I mean, kind of, yeah, he admitted, shy and sheepish like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Like I went to the courthouse. He was 20 years old. 20! Just went to the courthouse and married Alexiana Smokoff. No big wedding, no celebration. Just did it. And Mary? Mary had to find out through the grapevine, had to confront him on camera, had to process her baby getting married without her even knowing. But that marriage? It didn't last. Because Robert's demons were growing louder. By December of 2025, things had spiraled. Robert Jr. was facing 14 charges. Assault, violating a protective order obtained by his own wife, Alexiana. She was 21, he was 23. 2 kids trying to make a marriage work while one of them was drowning. She had to protect herself. Can you blame her? Robert pleaded guilty to 8 of those charges. 8. The other 6 were dismissed with prejudice, but still, 8 guilty pleas before you're even 24 years old. That's not just troubled youth stuff. That's a young man in crisis. In January 2026, just last month, Robert Jr. was released from Salt Lake County Metro Jail. He'd spent 2 months there, 2 months away from the drugs, away from the chaos, forced to be sober whether he wanted to or not. His attorney, Clayton Sims, told Page 6 that the time in jail had helped him. It allowed him to sober up and start thinking clearly, Sims said. He's looking forward to doing positive things. Looking forward. Future tense, because Robert Jr. still had a future then. He was making plans, moving forward. Finally, understanding that his marriage was over and it was time to rebuild, he had less than a month left to live. At the reunion, Andy Cohen asked Mary the question everyone was thinking. Aren't you worried about your son? Mary's answer was complicated, layered. The answer of a woman who's been through this cycle too many times. I'm not worried, she said. And before you judge her, before you think she didn't care, listen to what she said next. I know he's somewhere where he's not using. She meant jail. Her son was in jail, and she was finding comfort in the fact that at least there he couldn't get drugs. At least there he was safe from himself. That's where Mary Cosby was at. That's the reality of loving an addict. You find comfort in jail cells, in locked doors, in anywhere they can't hurt themselves. At some point, I have to step back so that he can learn and he can make his own decisions, Mary continued. And unfortunately, he's learning the hard way. But I'm okay with it. But was she okay with it, really? Or was that what she had to tell herself to survive? What she had to believe to keep functioning, keep filming, keep preaching, keep living? Because here's the thing about addiction and families. There comes a point where you have to let go, where you have to stop enabling, where you have to let them hit bottom and pray to God they bounce. Mary had faith. She believed God would protect her son, believed he'd come through this, believed the worst was behind them. On February 7th, 2026, just 16 days before his death, Mary posted a photo of Robert Jr. on Instagram. #God first love you all, my beautiful son. I love him, Sem. I love him so much, so much. Those were her words. Public, on Instagram, for the world to see a mother's love put into pixels and posted for posterity. She had no idea. February 23rd, 2026 started like any other day, until it didn't. Salt Lake City Police received a call, a possible overdose. When they arrived, they found Robert Cosby Jr., 23 years old. Someone's son, someone's ex-husband, someone's whole world. Gone. The medical examiner is still investigating the cause of death. We don't have all the answers. We may never have all the answers. But we know this. A young man died, and a mother's worst nightmare came true. Mary waited 2 days before making a statement. 2 days of the news spreading, of social media exploding, of RHOSLC fans in shock, of headlines screaming about tragedy and addiction and reality TV. 2 days of Mary Cosby living in a hell none of us can imagine. And then, on February 25th, she spoke. Our beloved son Robert Jr. has been called home to the Lord. Though our hearts ache, we take comfort in God's promise, and in knowing he is finally at peace. We are grateful for your prayers and trust in the Lord to carry us through this time of sorrow. Called home to the Lord, finally at peace. These are the words of a mother who needs to believe her son is somewhere better, who needs to believe this pain has a purpose, who needs to believe in heaven because the alternative is unbearable. Mary Cosby, who has preached about faith for years, now has to live it in the darkest way possible. Here's what we can't ignore. Robert Cosby Jr.'s story isn't unique. It's heartbreaking. It's tragic. It's personal to Mary and her family. But it's not unique. Every single day in America, families are living this nightmare. Every single day, someone's child, someone's beautiful boy, someone's baby girl, is struggling with addiction. And every single day, some of them don't make it. The overdose crisis in this country is a pandemic within a pandemic. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, famous or unknown, black or white, religious or secular. It just takes and takes and takes. Robert Jr. had resources. He had a mother who loved him. He had access to help. He had people around him trying to save him. And still, because addiction doesn't care about any of that. It doesn't care that you have potential, that people love you, that you have your whole life ahead of you. It just cares about the next hit. The thing is, when it's a celebrity's child, we pay attention. We talk about it. We write think pieces. We create content. But when it's your neighbor's son, when it's the kid who used to mow your lawn, when it's someone you went to high school with, do we pay attention then? Robert's death should matter. But so should every other life lost to this epidemic. So while we remember Robert Cosby Jr., let's also remember that he represents thousands of others, thousands of families grieving, thousands of mothers crying in the dark, wondering what they could have done differently. In September 2023, Mary Cosby posted a photo with Robert Jr., a simple mother-son moment. The two of them together, smiling. She posted it amid his struggles with addiction, amid the chaos, amid everything falling apart. Because that's what mothers do. They love anyway. They post the good moments, they hold on to hope, they keep believing that love will be enough. Mary Cosby loved her son with a fierce, unwavering, complicated love. The kind of love that shows up at court dates and jail visits. The kind of love that cries on camera and still keeps showing up. The kind of love that posts #GodFirst and I love him Sam, even when the whole world is watching your family fall apart. That love didn't save Robert Jr., but it mattered. It mattered when he was struggling. It mattered when he was in jail. It matters now that he's gone. Because Robert Cosby Jr. was loved. Deeply, imperfectly, completely loved. And at the end of the day, at the end of all of this, isn't that what we all need to know? That we mattered to someone. That someone loved us. Mary Cosby is burying her son. She'll stand at his funeral, whenever that is, wherever that is, and she'll have to say goodbye to her beautiful boy. The boy she posted about. The boy she cried over. The boy she never gave up on. Even when maybe she should have. That's mother love. That's the love that doesn't make sense. The love that doesn't quit. The love that keeps believing in resurrection even when you're standing at a grave. Robert Cosby Jr.'s life was complicated. His death is tragic. His mother's love was unconditional. As Mary said, she trusts the Lord to carry her through this time of sorrow. And maybe that's all any of us can do when the unthinkable happens. Trust, hope, believe, and remember that love matters, even when it's not enough to save them. Especially when it's not enough to save them. Rest in peace, Robert Jr. You were loved.